Hey everyone, how you doing today? I thought I'd show you a couple build candidates for release here of the Makar-ASV, and that is the name of the ship right now. Makar is one of the seven sons of Helios, and it just happened to be the name that was probably the easiest to say with the least amount of letters, so that's kind of why I picked it. So it's the Makar-ASV, which is Adaptive Starter Vessel. Same as the Janus ASV, basically. That was also had that same ASV logo on it. Anyway, I got this thing 100% done now, and I've got like two different build versions. I've got the one here and the one behind it. And I kind of want to go over all the updates that were done to the ship, and there's a whole lot of them. And also, I want to apologize for not getting this out over the weekend. I just kept on running into more and more things to do to the ship, and I decided to go with this whole info LCD thing, which was pretty extensive. So I'll show you what's up with that. And I was kind of on the fence of I should do it or keep all the letter decals all over the place on the ship. And it was really bad on this ship. There's so many decals everywhere that it was driving me nuts. So I put in a whole set of these things here for all the interior parts of the ship everywhere. So there's a lot of LCDs in the ship. They're all tied to an info LCD P menu option, so you can turn that on or off. Of course, when placing any parts, you do have to remove the LCD to place the part, and that's pretty much how it goes throughout the ship here. So I did some little tweaks all over the place in the ship. A couple of things that were brought up in comments on the last time before I move on to show you the new areas here is I had a couple traditional doors turned sideways to get into the toilet and shower, and someone made mention in comments that if you have those and you try to get out of the toilet, you'll be stuck there. That was true. I had to replace the doors, put in the good old louver doors now again. So, oh well, it was kind of a neat idea. I thought it looked neat, but it was absolutely true. If you use the toilet, you were stuck. You were stuck in the toilet. You couldn't get out. So another thing that was brought up has to do with the medical bay versus the clone chamber. In comments, it was suggested to swap out the medical bay for clone chamber because it's cheaper and lower level. That is true. That is true. However, I decided to keep the medical bay and all the medical equipment because the biggest difference would the clone chamber, I believe, unlocks at player level 7, where the medical bay unlocks at player level 10. But that's the same as what the entire ship unlocks at. So it didn't really matter. And then when I popped in like all these individual pieces for the medical stuff, it was not ramping up the cost of the resources I was concerned about, which is cobalt, neo, titanium, that kind of thing. It didn't affect it. So I decided to just keep all the equipment in here and not remove any of that stock at least. All right, so here, let's go just show you engineering again. You can see all these bazillions of LCDs all over the place for all the different parts throughout this entire room here. Your shield parts and plasma turbines and generators and everything under the sun has a LCD label on it now. So I think it looks a whole lot better in this way. I did leave some of the decals in some of these places, but most of them are gone, and there's no more letter decals anywhere. And that also extends up into the production area over here too, with all your constructors, the universal constructor, even the teleporter, small constructors, even the pilot seats over here, pilot and passenger seats. If we go upstairs now, this is going to get into the areas that were unfinished last time. So over here we've got the small crew area that I was kind of planning on doing. Not much going on in there. It does have a couple beds and stuff like that. And then we have our core room. And the core room is, it looks weird without any cores in it because it's really designed to fill up with a whole ton of cores. And then it does kind of resemble that of a server room or something like that. But you have locations to add 2 basic cores, 2 improved cores, 2 advanced cores, 2 superior cores, and 2 quantum cores, and then 4 auxiliary cores. So you can really jump this thing up quite a bit with its CPU, go beyond Core 9 with it. So hopefully this all works out. Then this door just wraps back out to the balcony out over here. The farm really has not changed except for all the lights and sensors and stuff are in place now. So all the doors open up and the lights are on, sensors as normal, and all that kind of fun stuff. So that is the general layout of this ship now. So this is version 1. One other thing that's done on version 1 here is what I ended up doing again is I removed the regular turrets that I had on here, which were the light Gatling turrets. And I was incorrect on the last video. I said they took 15 mil ammo. They don't. It's 12.7 mil ammo. It has changed, so it's just a different ammo type that I wasn't familiar with. So I was relating it to 15 mil. It's not. So on this version, what I did is I took out those turrets and I put in 4 of these sentry guns. So you got a couple up front and a couple in the back. They are cheaper and they do not require cobalt or neo like the other guns do. And that was basically a resource I was trying to remove from the build. Another thing that was added in is front and rear Wi-Fi. So you got the rear Wi-Fi here, the front one's up there. Did put in the guide markers for the Helios module bay as well. And also added a spot for a long-range radar down over here. It also has a spot for a detector right up over here. That's another one of these upgrade slots in here. And basically, it's all trying to keep the price down. Now, one last thing before looking at the cost on it is what I didn't realize before is that the 1x2 fuel tanks and oxygen tanks both require cobalt on a CV. So I had this all filled up with oxygen and fuel tanks, and then I was looking at the resource cost, and I'm like, oh, that's just too much cobalt. So what I ended up doing is put in a couple of these 1x1 dinky fuel tanks and oxygen tanks, and just kind of left the rest of the bays open for you to add whatever you want in there. But anyway, what all this did for the build cost is bring it to here. And again, I'm trying to make this as cheap as possible, but what I was really focusing on more than anything was getting rid of or lowering the cobalt use and trying to actually get rid of the neo use and titanium use. So basically now here is your build costs. It still has a 2-hour and 43-minute build time. The side effect to putting in all those info LCDs was that it made the ship more expensive because there's so many of them in this build. You can see we're up to 68 LCD screens in here, and I'm using like 5 for the Helios module docking and another 5 for the storage controller graphics and the medical bay sign. The rest are all info LCD stuff for all the part placements, but it did actually increase the build time by about 6 minutes by adding in all these LCDs in here. They don't require rare resources or anything like that, or even semi-rare resources, so it wasn't that hard of a thing to do. But anyway, there's that version there. Okay, so this version is very, very similar to that one. The biggest difference is this one does have the turrets on it, and it does have more fuel tanks and the 1x2 fuel tanks and more oxygen tanks of the 1x2 sizes. But if we take a look at the build costs on this version, you'll see that it's the actual production time isn't much different at all, but it does require 124 cobalt, 64 neo, and 55 titanium on this one. So that's the biggest difference here. Both of them unlock at player level 10. And they're set up the same. So everything else is identical on it except for the weapon configuration and the fuel and O2 tank configuration. And I'm trying to figure out which one I should put to the workshop. What I don't know is if the 4 of these is cool enough to deal with the drone attack. And I don't know. I honestly don't know. It is possible, I suppose, more of these could be added to the build as well. Maybe get a couple up in somewhere on the flight deck here. And I didn't really want to put them up here either. That's another thing. I kind of wanted to put them down over the thruster housings like I had the turrets. But if I put them in like locations that have any good decent line of sight, basically they would block a turret if you put the turret there. Unless, like, I could put one back over here, but then it's got an awful line of sight. I could only shoot out over here. And that's kind of why I stuck them on the flight deck, because they have a much better line of sight. And if you got drones coming in from whatever angle, maybe you'll have, up to 3 or 4 of these all shooting at the drones at one time. If I tucked them down in these locations, it would be a lot less ineffective, and I didn't want to block the main turrets. Another option would be to just kind of place one of these right in the center where the turrets are supposed to go, but that looks dumb. It looks so dumb, and then you got to remove them to place a turret. So that's kind of where I was at with that one. But other than that, I think that is the whole ship now, and it's yeah. I'm actually pretty happy with it. This thing was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, for sure. So comparing this version in overall stats to the Janus, which this is kind of like based around a little bit. Now, and by the way, this Janus ASV, as far as I can tell, it's totally cool with RE2. So I don't think it would need any modifications whatsoever. The Janus obviously is a lot cheaper in build time by less than half. The Janus actually is using a little bit of titanium and actually slightly more cobalt than this newer ship. And right now the reason for that is the Janus has a detector on it, where this ship only has a slot for a detector but does not actually have the detector installed. And that was, again, trying to just bring the cost down a little bit. The detector does require a little bit of cobalt and I think like titanium. Maybe a little neo as well. But I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do, which version I should get to the workshop, and I'm just hoping and praying I'm not missing anything here. I really went over this thing extensively over and over again in places, trying to get it looking better and working better, and then just trying to balance out all the stats and stuff like that, trying to keep it as cheap as possible. I did do some other modifications to it as well, like I kind of dressed up the front sides of the thruster housings, or the front or back sides, and little things like that. There's some more texturing and stuff that was done in here, some more other things that were added in here to try to spiff it up a little bit more than where it was. And I think, as far as I can tell, I've been over this a bunch. I don't think I have any missing textures or something any longer on here. But yeah, that's the build. Pretty happy with it, actually. I do plan on getting it to the workshop tomorrow, but I just kind of wanted, today's kind of a busy day. I do need to take all the pictures and get the post ready and all that. But I do plan on getting this out probably early tomorrow to the workshop. So it will be there. You can try it out, see how it works and Reforge and 2. I apologize for the price. It was obviously meant to be cheaper than what it is. I wanted it to, I knew it was going to be more expensive than the Janus, but it is more, I really wanted to keep the build time in this under, originally under 2 hours, and then I wanted to keep it under 2.5 hours, and then by the time I ended up with this thing, it's like 2 hours and 43 minutes on this particular version. 248 on the one with the actual real turrets on it, and the actual bigger fuel tanks and stuff like that. But I tell you what, the amount of parts this thing can hold, it's extensive. I mean, for its size, that's a lot of stuff in there. I'm almost packing in, short of thrusters and things like that, I'm almost packing in most of the parts the big Helios would take into this small version. So I guess the big Helios does a large fusion reactor and big shield parts too. So this one doesn't do that. It does 8 medium and 8. It does 4 medium and 8 small shield parts. Is its maximum shield capacity, plus your main shield, of course. Anyway, I will shut up there. Please let me know your thoughts on it. What version you think ought to go to the workshop. And other than that, I literally can't think of anything else I would want to do to it. And I do appreciate a lot of the ideas. I didn't go with all of them, like the elevator going up to the top. I did kind of not do that one. That was going to be too much. It was going to be a nightmare. And I don't think it would have worked very well at all. So, one last little detail. I did fix the repair bay up on the top here. It is centered now. Yeah, I had it like off-centered before. So you got a location there or here where you can actually put in the repair bay. I got the repair console set to go over there right now. All right. Well, anyway, you all have yourself a great day, and I will talk to you later.